Hello everyone, this is a recap of SAP BW 7.5 project number 32 part 1, and this is specifically for my students to do the recap. This is not intended for the freshers to learn it. So if you are learning it from the scratch, I would suggest you to contact us for the training. Okay, so let's move on to the project number 32, in which we are actually discussing about the data loading from the info set to generic data source into the PSA and DSO or the cube. So we'll first load the data from info set to PSA, and then we'll load the data from either into the DSO or cube. So the transaction codes that we are going to make use of in the source system is SQ03, where we will be creating a group. SQ02 is where we'll be creating the info set. SQ01 is for just viewing the data at the query level, whether the data is properly coming into the info set or not. And then we'll be making use of RS02 to create a generic data source based on the info set, and RSA3 is for testing the data source. So these are the transaction codes that we'll be using here. And let's move on to the system and then start doing it. Okay, right now I'm in the SQ03 transaction, wherein we need to create the user group. I'll prepare the user group as, say, something like ZGH Softech. And then we'll be clicking on the create. We are creating a user group here, and this is a new user group for GH Softech. Just say okay, and we'll be saving it in a package. We already have a package. Save it in the request, and then once the user group is created, we need to remember the user group name, that's ZJH Softech. Let's go back to the SQ02 transaction. In SQ02 transaction, we are going to create a query, and as we discussed in the theory part, we'll be basically creating an info set based on KN1 data. So we'll discuss something. We'll create something like ZJH underscore KN1, and then click on create. This is the source which we are creating here. So customer data, it will have the customer data, and authorization group, we are not giving anything, and we'll be creating the direct read of table. So if you want to join multiple tables, you can select the first option. If you want to write the logical database, if you want to create a logical database and then assign that logical database here, you can select the third option. And if you want to write a program code logic, then you have to select the fourth one. So right now we are making use of the second one, that is a direct read of a table, and it's a pretty easy one, the easiest one, and all these things. So we'll be having this option wherein system will ask you for, do you want to include all the table fields, or do you want to include key fields, or do you want to create empty field group. So I would choose the include key fields, so that like KUNR will be selected by default in the system. So we will be having KUNR by default because we have selected the key field, primary key field have to be selected here. Other than that, we can select few more fields here. So I'll select the country key, name one, and then we have the city. So these are the things that we have. Okay, so these are the fields that we are selecting here, and we can select few more fields as well. So just save it in the info set and just say okay, and then you need to just generate it. So there'll not be anything kind of activation. So the shortcut of, like the other way of doing it is generate. So we need to generate the info set, and once the info set is generated, we need to make sure it is assigned to a user group. So we can assign this particular info set to user group. For that, what we can do is we can select this, and role user group assignment is what we have in the SQ02 only. So we'll select this, and we will search for the user group that we have created for us. So ZJH Softech is the user group that we have created just now. So we'll search for it, and once we search for it, yeah, we have got this. Select this, and once you select it and save it, so we are basically assigning this info set to a group. So this is a mandatory step that we have to do. So once it's been done, we can test whether this particular info set is working properly or not in the SQ01 transaction. Let's go to SQ01 transaction, wherein we have the user group. So we have ZJH underscore KN1 is the is the query that we have, the info set that we have created. So we'll click on the info set query and we'll select this and say OK, and you will get those will get that particular info set which we have created just now here. So you will have this fields which we have selected there. So we would like to go for something like customer number should be the input. We need to give some value for that, so we are giving it as input. And output, we have to get all the fields as output. The 4 fields have to be output. So click on output then. So once you click on the output, you will get the list of all the fields here. Okay, so these are the fields that we have there. So we will be able to see the data output in this particular screen where we have the query designer, wherein we can see all this data which we have in KN1 table. So this is what we have done. So we have successfully created an info set now. Once this has been done, we are just making use of the SQ01 only to view the data. But ultimately, you have created the SQs in SQ02. You have created the info set. So once you have done the info set, you need to come to RS02 transaction to build the data source. So let's come to the RS02 transaction, wherein we'll build the data source. And in this, we'll select it for as a transactional data. RS02. Okay, in this, let's create this data source as ZJH underscore customer underscore data source, or let's say we'll give it as something like info set IS1. Okay, customer info set. Okay, so then we'll click on create. And this is like we need to create the application component. You cannot create your own application component. You have to select it from the already existing application components. You can browse the application components here and select anyone which is already existing. So in the SAP R3, we'll have a lot of data sources that we application components that we have. So we have selected in SD, we have selected SD-I0, which is a master data, and then we have the customer data. We'll give it as customer data. So here, instead of giving view tables, we will go with info set query. So for this, what you need to do is you need to select here extraction from query. Only when you select this, this will be enabled. Otherwise, it will be disabled. So here, what we'll do is we'll give the info set name ZJH underscore KNA1. We just would like to check that. So what you will do is like ZJH KNA and press F4, or you click on this, you will get this. Say OK. And then you will be getting the list of all. Okay, let's search for the our info set here, ZJH underscore KNA1. We just want to make sure it is existing. Okay, so double click on it. And that info set is what we are taking it as a source here. We need to save it, and once we save it, you will get the option where you can hide some fields or display some fields. Save it in the package. Okay, this is the field, this is the screen I was talking about. Okay, we don't want to hide anything because there are pretty less number of records. So we'd be going for customer number for selection. Select that and click on save. So once the data source is successfully created, you have option of either checking it from the same RS02 transaction or going to RSA3 transaction and checking it. So what we'll do is let's go to the data source and test extraction. You can do it from test extraction from here itself, and here we can give KNR as 1000, and here you can give it as something like 10,000, and then extraction. We are checking the extraction here. Okay, let me check it without values. Okay, I just want to confirm data is okay, 1000 records. Okay, so we need to give that selections with leading zeros actually. So if you get the leading zeros, you will get it. Okay, so these are the records which are successfully loaded. I mean, like we are able to see it at the data source level. Now what we need to do is the our project work in the ECC system, that is a source system, is been done. Now we need to log in into the BW system, that's our target system, in which we need to replicate this data source, that is ZJH_IS. This is what you need to replicate in a particular data application component called SD-I0. So we will open this SD-I0 in that particular BW system and replicate that particular application component so that this data source will be appearing there. So once this data source is successfully updated there or replicated there, we activate the data source, create an info package, and load the data into it. So that part of data loading into the PSA is what we have to do now. So let's get into the BW system now. Okay, this is the BW system. We'll come to the data source level, and in the data source level, we'll make sure our source is the ECC server. This is the ECC server. We need to change the data source there. We have to go to an application component called SD-I0. That is where we have done it. So we'll go to the RS SAP R3, and in which we'll be looking at the SD. And in the SD, we have something called SD-I0, which is the master data. So we will right click. Okay, basically it will not be there now, and right click on this data master data and right click on this and replicate metadata. So once we do this, all the data sources that are latest data sources or new data sources after the last replication will be updated. So once it's been updated, you will be able to see that particular data source which we have created in the ECC system. Now this is the data source which we have successfully replicated. We need to click on display change, make it active into our package. So whatever is the package, we need to give the package name, say okay, own request, just say okay, and once it's been activated, we can create a info package under that and upload the data into the info package. Right click on the data source and create info package, and we'll give it as something like a ZJH_IS1, the info package. So we'll just create it, say okay, and this is the info package. And before scheduling, we'll make sure we have some limited amount of data because we have thousands of records. So we'll restrict it to something like 1,000 to 5,000 customer. I mean, like the records which will have the number as customer number as 1,000 to 5,000 only will be extracted here. We'll click on schedule and click on start. Once it's been done, you just need to click on the monitoring button, and we need to make sure the data has been loaded. So 447 records are there. Select this and click on display change. And now once we refresh it, we have the 447 records successfully loaded here. From here, we need to take it forward and load it into the cube. So we need to first do the modeling of a cube which will have these fields, whatever info objects that we have there. So we need to take the reference of that table from which we have taken KN1. We need to check the properties and do it. So from here, we'll be continuing in the next session. The project will be completing in the next part 2. Thanks for watching this video. For more such updates and latest updates, subscribe to our channel youtube.com/Softech. Okay, have a great day.